When an individual needs to escape from something or someone, a vast environment hidden in areas is probably the best place to go. And what better than a location someone knows best and has been present there. Join me in this video as we discuss a possible theory around Kenny Veach, where he went and why he cannot be found. So to kick things off, because this is a viewer requested video and a suggestion by another individual, I'm going to share with you some little video made by an individual. She's called Angela. Angela believes that Kenny did travel elsewhere, in fact returning back to the city and going on from there wherever. So credit to them for thinking of that theory. I'll leave a link to their channel down below. And yeah, let's get into that little video now and then link on from there.
But here's what I wanted to show you. Here is like a full city. And what makes me pretty much sure, no, not sure, think he could have went to the city is because here next to it, there's the Red Rock Canyon, like right next to it, and he mentioned parking or hiking near the Red Rock Canyon, but he lived in Las Vegas, and this is in Las Vegas, Nevada, so he could have used it because I'm sure he knew the Red Rock Canyon, and like if you live and always hike in the Nevada deserts, there is no doubt that you would know about this place. So yeah, that's what makes me think he could have went to the city and just went back to his house, basically, because like we all know he could have seen like stuff that people didn't want him to see, or just people are holding him hostage. But yeah, this is what I came up with.
So yeah, that is an interesting theory made by Angela, considering most people are claiming Kenny was running away. But instead, this theory focuses on Kenny returning back in some way. Maybe the vehicle was out there as a decoy, but then you've still got the items near the mine shaft. But let's not look too deep into that part for now. One thing to consider though is Kenny's vehicle wasn't near Red Rock. It was at Joe May Road, parked on Joe May Road near Joe May Canyon. And if you used to take into account the distance from there to the city, there is quite a bit of distance to cover, which I'll show you now. In which, as you can see on screen right now, Joe May Road, where that red dot is, next to Joe May Canyon, the M Cove hike route, this area is where Kenny's vehicle was found abandoned. Now, depending what Kenny did from there on, which I assume was to pass the mine shaft, considering what was found there, his phone and loose change, depending what he did from there on, if we're basing it off Angela's theory, what Kenny would have done at some point would have turned back, left his vehicle where it was, maybe as a decoy, who knows, and then followed the route all the way back on the dotted line, as it's the quickest way back, I believe. Now, as you can see, 9 hours, 55 minutes to get all the way back down Alamo Road and then into the city, which is down here from the looks of it. 9 hours 55 minutes, 29 miles. Quite a lot of distance to cover, considering we've looked at the M Cave hike route and the distance and the time took for those type of walks. But I guess 9 hours 55 minutes is doable, considering the actual terrain. It's flat, it's safer, so it won't take as much time. Now, Kenny, in the past, in his M Cave hike video, did say he had to walk all the way down Alamo Road to be picked up, from what he said.
Then I came down in the morning, and it took me quite a while to get out of this mountain range. And I walked almost all the way back to the highway, and my girlfriend picked me up. So it was a long trip. I was pretty wore out and beat up, but that's what I do. I'm out here having a good time.
So as heard, it's not the first time Kenny's done something like this. So it is possible. And additionally, reinforcing evidence is the hiker Scott Natal. When his vehicle broke down, run out of gas, he had to walk all the way back and down the highway for help. So it just shows that it is doable and it is possible. And that distance and that time can be done, especially with the terrain. As said, it's not like Mojave Canyon, where it's all dangerous and rocky and steep. So yeah. However, basing it off from Angela's theory, in which she thinks Kenny returned back to the city, in Kenny's mind, is it possible, is it practical that he did that? Especially if he was trying to escape from something. But, to put it forth, from what Angela said, that maybe he found something he wasn't supposed to, so maybe he was running back from that. Maybe there was two different forces operating. The force of debt and then the force of maybe military intervention, pushing, pulling. Kenny's got to try and get away from one or the other, maybe, and that's why he returned back to the city. But I'd say ultimately, maybe not exactly possible, because surely someone would have seen him. People would have noticed him. He would have been found. Surely. Now, if we're basing it off last known location, like that previous video I did, well, that was of a neighbourhood, which I assume is where Kenny lives. And that's just the default location of his last known place, because there is no definitive answer or witness reports from other people who saw him on the day, potentially. I don't know about CCTV footage. That's never really been mentioned, especially of that cinema he went to. So that is interesting. However, let's just take a step back. The theory doesn't end here. Because if you just take out the idea of Kenny returning back to the city, but the idea of Kenny being active in the desert and purposely leaving his vehicle there as, let's say, a decoy, my theory or my additional thoughts would be that possibly Kenny could well be hiding in the desert environment, or at least the outer skirts of the city. Maybe living with other people, maybe homeless people, maybe in a cave, a tent of some sort. You know, one thing you've got to consider is the environment Kenny does know quite well. And like how Angela said, he's lived in Las Vegas all of his life, I believe, and he's been out hiking quite a bit. So he does know the area quite well. So he would do well in remaining undetected, I guess. And maybe the odd few pieces left behind, like the phone and the change further out there, was a decoy to lead people on to going north, onwards. Whereas Kenny was nowhere near there, he was actually closer to the city. Maybe. But let's just look at kind of reinforcing evidence from Scott Natal. So the comment made by Scott Natal, interestingly, is similar to my theory. Now, it all came about on one of his videos, can't remember which one, I'll link in the description down below, and it was to do with Scott finding some cardboard in a cave, and someone left a comment and thought it was to be for a homeless person, like a bed, as you see in city centres and populated areas. Now, Scott replied with, on screen, "I think he is hiding out as a camping man up there to get rid of the debtors. There are some people up there, but they don't want to talk to me." He also replied with, "Also, as you get closer to Las Vegas, you will see the homeless people hiding out in tents and caves, but not all the time. I did run into a homeless guy down by the gate. He did not want me to film him, so I had to cut it from the video." So that is quite interesting, that made by Scott. You know, homelessness, I don't know what it's like in Las Vegas, but I'm sure that does happen. But in terms of the environment, certain areas, especially more into the Mojave Desert and maybe the outer skirts, could it be quite harsh and impractical to survive in that area for a long time? Possibly, because from what Artari said in recent time, due to the dryness and the heat, mountain lions have actually got closer to the city, or at least closer to part of the neighbourhood nearby, because of how dry it is. You know, if they can't manage mountain lions in that harsh terrain which they're normally in, then what chance does a human stand? I'm just basing it off that. But if we're just talking about the outer skirt area, where there might be trailers, tents, small huts and buildings, I don't know, stuff like that, and as well as caves nearby, maybe it's doable to survive there. And potentially Kenny Veach could be hiding in one of those caves, maybe with other people. But I don't know what they would be doing for food, water, and other kinds of resources. But you never know. You know, Kenny was kind of a creative person and, you know, made inventions and constantly thinking of new things and new ways. So maybe he could manage and he could adapt. And especially with being in that environment, terrain and hiking so much, he's got a lot of experience and he might be able to manage. You never know. Well, let's just look back at Scott's comment. Camping man getting rid of debtors. That's interesting, because the reality is Kenny did have financial issues. So with that being in mind, and the fact that Kenny couldn't find a buyer for the house and his services, maybe he got desperate and the only rational way of him thinking at the time was just to run away. But because he liked the area and he knew the desert and the environment quite well, maybe he made use of that knowledge and understanding. And because he liked the area, that's where he wanted to settle down and remain for the time being. And then whatever happened, happened after that, maybe. But yeah, additionally, Scott said, "There's some people up there, but they don't want to talk to me." Who are those people? Homeless people? Who are they specifically? And what does it mean by people up there? Up in the mountains? In the distance? I'm not quite sure what he means by that. And then looking back at this, closer to Las Vegas, I guess the outer skirt area, tents, caves, people hiding in them, people living in them. Okay then, possible. But not all the time. So they come and go. Where else do they go? Do they go back into the city to collect, to get money in some way, I guess, come back and forth? The reason why I'm saying that is because if you think about it, if that's what Kenny was doing, because practically he didn't have any money from there on and lacking resources, that Kenny would probably have to go back to the city, like what Angela said. And I guess depending what action, such as begging for money, maybe, back and forth, sometimes in the cave, just like as Scott said, with whoever, and then returning back to the city to get money or to buy certain items to carry on living. That's the way of thinking about it. I guess in Kenny's eyes, could he possibly return back to the city knowing he's in debt, people are looking for him? Would he be able to avoid detection? Unless he altered his appearance in some way. So there's that to take in mind. And then the final thing Scott said, he did run into a homeless guy down by the gate, but didn't want to be filmed. That's interesting. I don't know what they mean by the gate. What gate? Area 51 gate? Or a gate into somewhere? I don't know. And the homeless guy didn't want to be filmed. Most likely, that's just like a natural response by another person. They don't want the attention. They don't want, to be publicly filmed and shown elsewhere. Could it possibly be Kenny? Probably not. Probably not. Anyway, I just wanted to share this comment, this idea, that it's not just me that thinks like this. So yeah, I think that basically sums it all up. So once again, another valid theory into the disappearance of Kenny Veach and the outcome. Could he possibly be hiding in the Mojave Desert? Or even just the outskirts of Las Vegas? Caves, tents, holes, anything he could be hiding in, or could have hidden from people that wanted to get to him. Whether it be financial reasons, such as being in debt, or if it was seeing something he wasn't supposed to find. Different people looking for him. He had to go quiet. He had to hide. And what better place to hide in the environment he knows best? The question, though, that does remain is how long could he possibly survive in those conditions when the likes of animals struggle at times? And could he possibly stay in one spot? Or did he move on due to the harshness of the conditions? I guess we'll find out eventually. But for now, the mystery continues. And so do the findings. That's it for now. See you next time. Goodbye.